Hey, Deb, this is a very timely topic for us to discuss today.
hmm
The reason is I just got done reviewing the progress that all of my student product managers made at their internships.
hmm
And we're going to talk about what set them apart. They did a fantastic job, just about every single one of them. And we're going to boil down to the skills that they used and they learned and they developed during these internships because they're the exact same skills that make for a great product manager. And this will be particularly interesting to young PMs, but also great refresher for practicing and experienced PMs today.
It's fantastic, Brad. I couldn't wait to hear more about your experience and internship experience from the students. I just hope that it was not biased opinion from your side, but I hope it's not. I'm just kidding. But to all our listeners, I think this is a great topic that Brad and I wanted to cover and unpack with you all today. So before jumping into the episode, hi, I'm Dave. I work as an investment and product strategist at one of the health tech VCs here in Pittsburgh.
And I'm Brad, and I direct the MS in Product Management program here at Carnegie Mellon University. And welcome to the Product Signal, where we talk about all things product.
Yeah, and before moving to our discussion, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. We are available in multiple media platforms. If you're catching the video recording, we're on YouTube, but we are also available in all the podcasts. And we need your feedback to improve and to create more content that's more relevant to our product management community.
Exactly. And getting back to the concept and the topic of the skills necessary to become a great product manager, as was displayed by the students this summer, it's universal. We'll talk mostly about universal skills that apply to all types of product managers, all industries. The quote that I'm reminded of is from one of the professors here at CMU, Adam Pulisic, who says that a product manager needs to be above average at everything. And before you get intimidated and run away, we'll do a little quiz, Deb.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think I observed in the students' performance this summer?
Are you eventually leading to solving the right problems? And do you have a really good understanding of your users, customers, and other auxiliary stakeholders?
That's perfect. And that's the phrase that I love the most, is solving the right problem. In fact, when somebody asks me what the MSPM program teaches, and I have put it into one phrase, it is to solve the right problem. We aren't starting with design thinking just because of my bias, but because I think design thinking is almost a misnomer insofar as it's really problem solving.
It's also overused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think where we're going with this is like it begins with that, but then it like relying on your empathy trait, like how you empathize with your users, basically putting them in their shoes, truly understanding their problems, benchmarking several things that you hear, and then figuring out what problem to solve. Not even how. Maybe first thing is what problem to solve.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, the research skills go into that. Can you talk with customers and ask the right questions without leading them? Can you observe as they're telling you how they feel about a product? Can you observe body language? Can you interpret things that are either stated or unstated? And then it also leads into, okay, now I have a sense, I have data, I have qualitative and quantitative data related to where the problems exist. Now we need to be creative and come up with ideas that might solve them. And the word creative, I think, scares a lot of people. Especially the technical people.
It did me. Yeah. It did scare me. I struggled a lot, right? In our service design and HCI courses, I think I struggled a lot because for me, like answering a question with another question was never a thing. Because it's either yes, no, or there's a particular way to do it, right? And but over and over, when you start doing it, you realize that the more questions you ask, the more you get to the root cause.
Yeah.
And then I think the more you get to the root cause, you will figure out is like, oh, okay, this is where the spark is. And we have done several whiteboarding sessions, sticky notes, and everything to build that muscle, right?
Yeah. Muscle's a good analogy. Creativity, it's a hang up for a lot of people that by default see in black and white, but there really are like, there are techniques that you can learn that even if you're not entirely comfortable, it's like exercise. If you go through the motions,
Yeah.
you'll end up with ideas and things that you might have a mental block and think you're not capable of. In a lot of what, like, some people are definitely born creative. There's no doubt about that.
Oh,
But
yes.
I've become a firm believer that even a technical person or a person who is a linear thinker can take themselves on an expansion journey to think way more creatively than they ever thought possible.
Absolutely. And I think it's a coachable trait slash skill, because I think creativity is not only required for design product managers, it's also required for articulating deals. It's for investment financing structures. It's about restructuring your business. It's required to have diplomatic relationships, right?
Yeah.
You have to have conversations. So it's required in every aspect, but then how you build that muscle, taking the same impact to do that. I think
Yeah.
let's quickly touch on the other aspect of design thinking as well. As we brainstorm, ideas to solve, at least one thing that I had to take my engineering side out of it is because for me, it's like, if this is the solution, you have a problem with it, we can pivot it, we can change it, and we can figure out this way. And what eventually I realized is I was too much attached to the solution. And I think that sometimes you have to be accountable, ownership, passionate to solve this problem, but you also cannot be too much attached to one particular idea, because sometimes that can be wrong.
Yeah, and that's where the humility comes in. And
Yeah.
I often, when I'm giving a presentation or a lecture on the top on this phase, like you've gotten a ton of ideas, now what? Then you have to have an experimental nature. You have to test things and try things. You have to almost use all your senses or build with your hands, so to speak.
Yeah.
And be willing to know that what I'm building might get thrown away, but there might be a detail in here that makes it to the final product.
I'll steal your one of your say, Brad, is a good idea is buried under a pile of many bad ones, right? And I think unless you test, repeat, and really get the silver lining of it, I think you'll never get to the part. And I think that's part and parcel. It's like, we'll all make mistakes. I have done that, and anyone who's entering a product manager role or is a young product manager, early stage product manager, you will make this mistake. What we are
Yeah.
telling you is, as you make this mistake, you'll realize the value that you have to carry some silver lining and proceed and be humble and continue to do what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the bridge between where design thinking and business meet is really the business skills that you need is really comes in terms of prioritization. So maybe you have 100 improvement ideas.
Yep.
Now, which ones are we going to start with? And if you're making those decisions without regard for the business impact of all this great work that you just spent designing and solving, and then you're operating aimlessly, it can't be random. It needs to have a business impact, or else you need a new job.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Brad. I think that's a great lead to business. And where I'm going with this is like, every startup CEO is basically a salesperson, a marketing person, a product person, and an engineering person, right? And that's a trait. It's a product that he's building, that he's passionate about, but at the same time, he has to run the business. So is constantly looking at the bottom line. Is what is the cost benefit analysis? How do I spend a single penny and I get 10 pennies back? And single penny in engineering versus single penny in product versus single penny in marketing and single penny, and it gets added on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think understanding if you think design thinking, it answers you what seems the most probable solution, But as you put your business hat, it makes a viable lens on top of that. And then you filter out certain things that might not make the most sense to build, even if from the design thinking and we have 10 different ideas, it might filter a few, right?
Yeah.
Just for a broader audience, what we're talking here is, can it be monetized? What are the margins? If I build this product, what value will it unlock in the market? How many customers will come to it? What is the market traction I'll have? How does it create a competitive moat? Are there legal and compliance issues, regulatory impact that you need to figure out, which will add additional burden to the business? But like just basically understanding the ballpark of all of this, and not every young product manager will basically have to think through that. But the more you understand these pieces, I think becomes really critical for you to develop as a strategic product leader.
Yeah, and I think one of the additional starting points is understanding the competitive landscape too, and being able to do that research and make decisions based on your strengths, your weaknesses, the traditional SWOT diagram. Because if you're working for an app that has a top 5 competitors, and all 5 already have a feature, should we follow so that we're on par with them, or should we go in a different direction so we have differentiation? These are the types of questions that don't have easy answers. Should we go for an entirely new market that those players are already not dominating? Or should we keep up with the competition where we currently lack? Like, that's a huge decision.
Couldn't agree more, Brad. And as we thought about introducing the business aspect of the skills that you need to develop, I think it will eventually come. But for young product managers, I think how I sort of push myself to think is asking questions to your product leaders, right? How do you think this would translate to a monetization or a pricing model, and how does it impact the business? You might not get the full perspective of how it trickles down, but at least you'll start getting narrative, right? You'll start getting opinions. And who knows, they might also share the Excel sheet or the memo that they pitch to the executive leadership, right? It all depends on company to company, startup to big tech or big companies, right?
And along those same lines, like benchmarking from across industries, that people that aren't even direct competitors. I'm working on a B2B product, but how exactly does Netflix manage their subscription plans? Because maybe that fits in my situation. The ideas are everywhere, and a lot of successful companies already have the models available for you to analyze whether they would fit in your situation.
Analyze and modify. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's touch base on some other components of skills as well, Brad. Think let's try to, if I can, I think this technical aspect of it, but there's also AI, right? So let's try to cover maybe two of those things as a skill set. Brad, what do you think from a technical standpoint, from AI standpoint, what do you think is important skills to have?
Technical is the trickiest of the types of skills to self-assess, because there's such a wide array of what employers would expect from a PM in terms of technical capability. So in some cases, at some companies, you won't get hired unless you're a PhD in computer science. Like that's the nature of the work they do. They value that for one reason or another. And extremely successful PMs have no formal technical training. I can think of one who I know at Google, who I believe he was an English major in college, but he's an incredibly successful product director at an incredibly successful company because he leverages the skills he has. But I would say the minimum requirement for a product manager and technical skill is being able to speak the language of the technical teams.
And I think to your point, the way I see it is like a CEO knows its strengths and surrounds with successful leadership around him who have other strengths that complements the weaknesses. Sometimes the reason why technical capability, especially in big tech as we think of it, becomes really challenging to describe or ascribe to is because, let's say, your Google example, he must have a really good engineering manager or engineering leader who understands and translates that back to the team. And sometimes you're lucky to have that, and few companies spend a lot of time to have or create teams. Sometimes you might not be. But what I think helps is trying to spend time, I think, this is like not directly skills, but more like, personality skills, is like having companionships with engineering leadership, trying to understand what they do, how they do it,
Yes.
talking their language, slowly trying to tell the story. But when you tell the story to non-technical people, it should be different, which is your natural trait if you're non-technical. But if you're technical, then using keywords that you have learned working with the team to rely, and then sort of having a trust
Yeah.
factor. It's like, how you do that. So that's why it's like very, very challenging depending on the role, right?
Yeah, and I think like most of these things can first, as you mentioned, you can lean on your teammates and their expertise.
Yep.
But in order to do so, I think the simplest way to work around a limitation like this is to ask very simple questions. An engineering manager says that'll take us 2 months to develop, and I'm not sure if they are giving an accurate, confident projection, or if they are just guessing, or if they're trying to under promise so that they can overperform.
Or maybe they're just completely BSing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the more direct way to say it. But
Yeah.
if you ask, can you explain to me, or can you show me why this is so complicated so I can understand?
Yeah.
Striving to understand is the next best thing to knowing how to do it yourself. And even if it means sitting next to them at their laptop, going through code or reviewing how messy the data is and how much cleanup is necessary. These things, they don't just help you understand and make you more able to communicate in their language, but they also build that trust, like this person really wants to understand the difficulties that I'm going through.
Yeah, the other side, I completely agree there, Brad. I think the other side of it is also like working with data scientists who do a lot of data analysis and analytics. I think it's a similar kind of problem.
Mm-hmm.
You need to ask us like what kind of analysis, what kind of questions you're answering, understand the data model. Sometimes it can be really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Right? Where I was going with this, Brad, was right now, thanks to AI, you can ask a lot of questions, not even to your team, but leverage AI to basically educate yourself. Right, a little bit more about, let's say, how a platform is built. Let's say, what is the key requisite of this? What is the data model? How this data model is then? Why is it stored that way? Sometimes it's become so much overwhelming by a lot of different jargons, a lot of different things that your teams might be very used to, and you entering as a young product manager, it becomes very overwhelming. But I think it's becoming prerequisite sort of in a way, but also like how you utilize to educate yourself, how do you utilize to research different aspects, research tools, and how do you learn more and accelerate your learning, right?
Yeah. That I believe the most recent article I saw said that 70% of companies won't consider hiring a product manager unless they have AI skill. Now, I also bet that half of that 70% don't know what they mean when they say you have to have AI skill.
I was going to say that, but that's a separate topic.
Well, I think it's relevant insofar as like that in this time can mean several different things. It can mean, are you able to train AI models? Are you able to understand how people interact with AI models? Are you able to integrate AI tools into the product features that we're releasing? So it's really, and I bring that up because it can help demystify it. Like there's many different ways to say I'm competent in AI, or I have experience with AI, and they're not as intimidating as they might otherwise seem. You don't need to be creating models from scratch. And even if you can, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great product manager.
completely agree there. The other thing would be is I think we chatted this, and it's a challenge that I think we're still figuring it out. Is AI can do a lot of reasoning, but it's historical reasoning. And as product managers, many times you're solving a similar kind of problems which has been solved, but many times you need to take a very different approach. So you need to be very careful as to what you're using large language models, AI to assist, to help you train, to understand what you're building as a product versus whether you're using them in some capacity into your decision making matrix or using them at a much more deeper level to develop product features.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think it becomes more challenging because product manager is as much as science, as much as it's an art and a skill.
Yeah, yeah, and understanding the intricacies that if my company, let's say it's a financial company, a bank or something that, or even healthcare, this is your world,
Yeah.
where it's life or death situations.
Yeah.
Understanding the reliability and the confidence you have in a doctor might have in an answer that's given, and the limitations related to that and the risks associated with just assuming it's right. There's so much variance in how important AI is in terms of, can it be unmanned? Can it be,
Yeah.
is a human required even with the most advanced systems?
Yeah, and I think Brad, given that we are discussing so many things here, and given this is a
Yeah.
hot topic, and I think I'll just volunteer ourselves to do a separate episode around AI and emerging tech and product manager,
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of things to unpack here.
Yes.
Right, and our listeners or subscribers, let us know if you think that would be beneficial, and we'll try to put more effort in bringing different parts, talking to different side of the industry to see what we can bring together.
Yeah.
But quickly jumping into, I think, the two other sections of skills that we wanted to touch base. One was leadership, and the other one was product sense. I know they are different, but they tie really well at the bottom.
Yeah, we're going from the machines to the humans now.
Yeah. So I think, like as a leader, as a product leader, irrespective of whether you're a young product manager or a strategic leader, I think you need to have certain attributes or build certain capabilities and skills that begins with, how do you establish credibility? How do you improve your storytelling process? How do you, Brad, the biggest challenge for me was when I joined enterprises was, how do you write 2 years of your effort in 2 pages? Right? Not PPT, not a deck, but just 2 pages. And who is it meant for? Right? And what story are you trying to say, and what are you trying to convince? And I cannot tell you how many times I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And because that was my first time, I spent probably way more time to just refine and overthink. But I think it's very much repeatable across product management, whoever is trying to do it, right? Because at the end of the day, any product release, you get a simple tagline, but just imagine the number of man hours that have been put and thought that has been put into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And the other few things which helped me, I think, soft skills coming out of school was negotiation, which I'm still learning from day to day, given the work that I do. And how do you influence and get buy-in, especially in a risk-averse healthcare system, right?
Yeah.
For the right reasons, because it's touching patient lives and you cannot take risk. You can take a risk with a B2B product. We can take risk with B2C product. Yes, the risks are different and varied, and it results to something if something goes wrong, but here you're dealing with human lives. So how do you balance that? How do you negotiate? How do you innovate? And how do you push the envelope there?
Yeah, and I also think that, like, when people hear the word negotiation, they think that it is, a contract, and I'm arguing for more higher percentage or more money.
Absolutely, yes,
but
that's such a good point. Yep.
Negotiations almost happen in every conversation you have where there's a decision to be agreed upon. So it could be as simple as, It could be as simple as we need to have a meeting to review the budget.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on vacation next week. Now you have to negotiate a way to negotiate around your manager's schedule. And even just doing that the right way builds your credibility, and your small interactions build up to set you up for positive big interactions and major decisions. And the idea, like one of the things that is necessary for PMs is to establish trust, because you won't be given responsibility until or unless you have trust. And product management by definition is a high responsibility role. If every proposal that you have is second guessed, or you present data that's wrong, oh my goodness, what just happened to the trust that somebody has in you? We can make $1 billion with this feature, and then all of a sudden they do the math and it's $100,000. That's the type of thing that you need to start looking for a new job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that as we talk about trust, you need to build that over time, but it eventually, as you become more experienced, it shows in your work.
Yeah.
Until you have that portfolio built, I think the best way to show it internally, wherever you join as a young product manager, is to show incremental progress that is like really sound, right?
Yeah.
I think the initial signs for you is when your leaders just give you a task, don't even follow up. This means you have achieved their trust, right? Because they know they will come back to you. You will come back to them like 2 days later with something meaningful.
Yeah, that'll take us back to the internships that my students recently experienced, where I was reviewing their work, and so many of them were doing things so far above the typical intern level responsibility. And I made it a point to ask all of them, like, this is a whole lot that you were trusted with. How did you go about establishing that? And it's almost always like in the first week or two, I did some small task, but I did it at higher quality than anybody else has ever done it.
Going above and beyond, showing that you're dependable.
Yes.
And creating that trust, right? So,
and we're humans, and first impressions are way more impactful than an average long-term track record, at least in priming that, or getting an initial read on, can I trust this person with something big? And then, that's where the tenacity comes back in too, is my boss just gave me this thing. It doesn't seem important. I'm not even sure I can do it right, but I'm going to figure it out and knock his or her socks off. Like that's the story that so many of them shared, and they were rewarded as a result with things that you would expect a senior PM to struggle with.
Don't be afraid to not be in a comfort zone, and try to do your best. I mean, everybody knows that it's not your comfort zone. Like if I see someone coming in, I know they're putting in the best effort, and my expectation is really low. So take it from that sense as like, once you've proven yourself, the next time the bar is higher. And next time the bar is higher, and next time the bar is higher. So over the years, I think it will become more challenging, but that's good. And that like inherently then drives you to excel yourself. And like I said, I think, Brad, it's more philosophical, but it's, I mean, the best product you can work on is you. So think of it in that way. It's like, if you were a product, what would you improve and how would you explore that, right? Let's quickly, I know we have been talking a lot, but let's quickly touch base on product sense. And I know we touched base a little bit about this, but I think this is something that maybe inherently comes to few people, but even experienced people struggle. And that can only be built through years of experience and doing it repeatedly again and again. And many times failing, many times succeeding, but doing that. And what we mean by product sense is more broadly having sort of a strategic thinking where you understand how a product feature translates into a business dollar that you earn from a customer, right? And that will come with exposure, that will come with experience, but having that inherent line of sight that you need to build that skill is absolutely important, because product managers today are operator tomorrow of companies, of products. So you need to pull these things together. Right.
Yeah. Product sense it's always a term that fascinates me a little bit, because everybody knows that when you interview for product manager, you're going to get to the product sense question. Yeah. And what does that even mean? Yeah. And it really is it's an interesting term that in the end really means, like, can you bring it all together? Do you understand why things are important or not important? And can you put the puzzle pieces together in a way that
makes sense most at this point in time?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Like it includes, like, prioritizing trade-offs, empathizing with stakeholders, understanding different service lines of the business, understanding customers, users, all of that. Understanding internal mechanics, understanding internal cost.
Yeah.
And then trying to put together something that sort of works.
And then the piece that, unless you are well prepared, that people think that, okay, I've just proposed a solution, but on top of that, being ready to define what success looks like.
Yep.
And it almost feels like the game is already over before people get to that, so they forget about it, or they don't consider the end game as they're beginning up front, and that's a common mistake.
And just to add on to that, Brad, as you think about product sense, especially when you prepare for interviews and you work through a case, you think it's very logical. You think it's something that everybody would be good at. But what we forget is either we are responding with limited knowledge, or we are responding retrospectively.
Yeah.
When you're given the arms to be a proactive thinker, to develop, I think it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all about perspectives.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, me, if I've worked in product marketing for 10 years, I have gone through a lot of cycles, and I have different aspects that you might not be able to think. But if I can give that over to you, then you can start thinking in that way as well. That becomes another prioritization. And I think that's where your puzzle pieces came together, in the sense that marketing you have to balance with product, with business, with everything else. All right, Brad, we have been talking a lot, and I think it's helpful to our audience. But why don't we quickly wrap with some goals for our listeners?
One of the things that I'd like for people to take away from this is that I think it was obvious that there are so many skills to keep track of and sort of assess yourself on, and am I strong enough in this area or that area? One tool that is really helpful for that is you can think about the attributes that are important to your role, or the role that you want, and simply itemize the skills that are most critical to that role and create a radar chart. Yep. And a radar chart helps you visualize, where do I assess myself today versus where do I need to be to either get the role that I want, get to the next level, feel comfortable that I know what I'm doing, because a lot of us are imposters, or we feel like it anyway.
Yeah.
So that is one area where it's also, I was always taught to call it a spider chart because it looks like a spider web, but I find that to be a really simple visual to assess where I need to improve, so much so that I assign it to students at their internships. Like, do a self-assessment and come back after your internship and let's talk about where you've grown or how much you've improved in these areas that you're targeting specifically, because they're limiting gaps. And then you just continuously build out, and a chart to be an APM would look different than a chart to get to a group PM level, or things along those lines. And that can be really helpful. Even the thought process of what attributes am I going to measure forces you to contemplate your own position, your own starting point, your own definition of what you think is important. Now, we talked about this a little, Deb. How would I even go about quantifying my skill in negotiation or presenting, or
Yep.
what would I use as the measurement points, or how to measure myself?
Yeah, and I think the way I had done is finding someone, or like basically creating a benchmark, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think you admire someone's leadership skills, you should take them as the the best, and then judge as to if you were in their position, could you have done this or not, right? And if you want to keep it more grounded and realistic, I think finding people around you
Mm-hmm.
that you appreciate. I'll tell you why it does multiple effects on your brain and psychology is because you slowly start realizing that people around you are really good, and that gives you a sense of humility, right? And then now you know what their strengths are. You're trying to talk to them and learn from them versus engaging in some specific conversations, right? So you have dual factors. Like definitely you're talking to them to solve a particular problem or get a conversation going, but you're also learning from them. And that was, I think, very, very enriching for me when I did that.
Yeah. I
And the other aspect, Brad, sorry to cut you off
Oh
there,
no.
but was especially for people who are coming to the States, outside of the States, right? You have to have a personality and there's certain kind of expectation that might be culturally different. So the other thing, this is just a giveaway for the week, is whenever you're trying to talk, I think you might have already known this, but I think talk in front of the mirror. And if possible, take it a step further and start recording yourself, right? And look at it when you're completely free, when you're completely in another zone. Don't look at it immediately because you will not get enough capability. But again, that's also a part of your personality trait that you have to train to be more palatable to the people you're working with, making your storytelling much more impactful.
Yeah, I'd take that a step further and say that applies to everyone, not just people from different geographies or different languages. The idea that I can for free record myself and critique myself or share it with other people to critique me
Yeah.
is just, there's so much potential positive value in that. But it hurts. It hurts my feelings that
It hurts, but then it also teaches you that you need to be humble.
yeah.
Always, and humility always wins. But anyway, thank you for our listeners. Thank you, Brad, for your insightful thoughts. And so for our listeners, please like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any feedback, any questions, please feel free to reach us at theproductsignal@gmail.com. With that, we'll wrap the episode. There's another one in the series that we're really excited to share, which will come really soon. It's around the type of product management and skills.
That's a wrap.
Thank you.